Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. My name is Taya and this is Taya's Turning Pages. So by the title of today's video, you can tell that this is going to be my end of year TBR. I'm not going to do the traditional end of year TBR tag just because I felt like that was too specific, and honestly all of these books that I have right here I feel like don't really fit into all of those categories or questions. So I'm just going to show you the books that I still have remaining and that I really want to get to before the new year comes in. If I don't get to these, of course, then that's okay, but I really want to get to all of these books just because my interest in them is still really high and I want to keep up that momentum. So hopefully I can get through all of them, but we'll see. Anyways, let's get started. Also, I just wanted to say that the heat in my building is starting to kick in, so you might hear some noises in the background, like little bumps and all that type of stuff. So if you do, I apologize, but I can't do anything about that. So the first book that I have here I actually got in the mail yesterday, and it is Horror Story by Grady Hendrix. First things first, can we please appreciate how this book looks? Honestly, the aesthetic of this is top tier. I love how it looks just like an IKEA catalog. It has the little showroom map right here. It also has the store name and like what the store looks like in that IKEA signature, like, you know, graphic design, and I just love this. I honestly don't know too much about this book. I'm pretty sure that this follows 3 employees who work at this store, and they volunteer to work the overnight shift because they're trying to figure out what exactly is going on in their store. So weird things are happening where I think it says there's broken bookshelves, there's shattered water goblets and smashed wardrobes, sales are down, security cameras reveal nothing, and store managers are panicking. So these 3 employees decide to volunteer and, like I said, work the overnight shift to figure out exactly what is going on, and I think the story pretty much takes off from there. It does say right here in the flap that it is a psychological horror book, which I'm all here for. You guys know I love a good psychological horror story. That is my favorite thing when it comes to thrillers and horror books, is that psychological aspect of it. So I know that this is going to be a book that I probably devour, but I cannot wait to read this one. I don't know when I'm going to get to it, but I really hope that I get to it either sometime in the next couple of weeks or sometime in December, because I need to read this. Like, I need to. And this is going to be my first Grady Hendrix novel, so I want to see if I can get into his writing, and maybe that will prompt me to pick up the Final Girl support group. I don't think I'm going to read that vampire like slaying guide story just because I heard it's kind of gruesome and grotesque at times, and honestly I don't know, the story just doesn't really appeal to me as much as like this one does in Final Girl support group. So yeah, but either way I'm really excited to read this one. The next book that I have here is The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. So I did pick this up from Book of the Month when I ordered my October box, and I am specifically saving this for December because I do plan on reading this and Malibu Rising in that same month, just for a reading vlog, but also just to see if I become a Taylor Jenkins Reid stan. I feel like everyone and their mom has read this book. They have read the other 2 books, which is Malibu Rising and Daisy Jones and the Six, and I've heard nothing but great things about every single book. I think the most controversial or most polarizing one, I feel like out of the 3, is Malibu Rising, but for the most part it seems like everyone loves Taylor Jenkins Reid's work. So this story I know follows a former like old Hollywood starlet named Evelyn Hugo, and she gets interviewed by this reporter, and they pretty much just talk about Evelyn Hugo's time, I'm assuming, with her 7 husbands and what she was like in her prime when she was back in that whole in that old golden Hollywood era. So I love anything old Hollywood. I think that era was just so fascinating. Of course there were a lot of scandals, a lot of heartbreaking things that happened to the women in the industry, but it is a very interesting time period nonetheless. So I want to see if there's a lot of old Hollywood elements that are really like incorporated in this book. I hope there are a lot of like nods and odes to some of the things that were like iconic in the past. But yeah, I want to see if I become a Taylor Jenkins Reid stan like everybody else. I know so many people love her work and they talk about her all the time on like Bookstagram and Booktube and everything like that. So we're going to do a reading vlog in December to see if I become a TJR stan, especially before the end of the year. But this book is pretty thick. I did not know that this was a thick book, or at least the way this Book of the Month version looks. Maybe it's not that long. Let me see. I'm actually about to pull up the pages now. So it says it is around 387 pages, so that's not bad. I'm really excited to read this and I hope I enjoy it. So the next book I have here is a book that is going viral on all platforms, and it is The Love Hypothesis by Ali Hazelwood. So this is another Book of the Month book that I picked up in the month of October, and honestly I've been like putting it off just because it is getting so much hype, and I'm not saying it doesn't deserve it, but when books like that start to make their waves through the internet I just get nervous about reading them right away. just because I don't know how it's gonna go for me, of course, personally, but I do want to give this a try because it does sound like a cute story. I am not a huge Star Wars fan, I'm not going to lie to you, and I know that this is like a fan fiction of sorts for Star Wars, so I don't know, hopefully there's not like too many references or like that many odes from those characters to this, just because I won't understand what's going on. But I do want to still give this a read. I'm actually just going to read the synopsis, or the brief synopsis right here, and it says, when a fake relationship between scientists meet the irresistible force of attraction, it throws one woman's carefully calculated theories on love into chaos. So this just sounds like it's going to be so cute, and I love the fact that this is centering around like a PhD student and just two scientists, because I feel like we don't see that a lot. And you know, it would be cute to read more like love stories that kind of are set in like a STEM setting, just because again, we don't get too many of those, and I love diversity and all of that type of stuff when it comes to my romance books. I love it, whether it's like career, profession, and you know, anything like that. I just think that it's so cool. I love to learn about other industries, so I think that this is going to be really cute. I've heard nothing but great things about this book. Ali Hazelwood is getting so much love on Bookstagram and BookTok in particular, and BookTube, and a lot of people are saying that this is their favorite like romance book of the year, which is insane to me. So I definitely need to read this before the end of the year and see if it lives up to the hype, and to see if it could possibly knock It Happened One Summer off of that top spot for me. So the next book that I have here is by an author that gets a lot of praise, similar to TJR, and that is Colleen Hoover. So I will be reading Ugly Love, and I'm also filming a reading vlog later on. Probably I'm probably not going to upload it until January, we'll see, but I do plan on filming a reading vlog where I read this, as well as It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover. So this book, all I know is about two characters named Tate and Miles, and I think that this just follows their journey together in terms of like how ugly and real and raw love can get. I heard that this book is really sad and it is heartbreaking, but it's also beautiful, so I really hope I enjoy this one. I honestly have been very hesitant to pick up any Colleen Hoover works, just because she is one of those authors, of course, that gets a lot of praise and just so much support, which is great, but I just didn't know if her books were going to be for me necessarily. But I do love romance, and I love romance stories that also have like a bit of realness and rawness to them as well, and I just feel like her books and stories will probably more than likely have that. So I'm gonna go into the deep end and start off with Ugly Love. This one honestly interested me the most when I was looking through her most like popular books that are out right now. It Ends With Us, I was on the verge of picking that up multiple times, and I've always just been so hesitant, and I never pulled the trigger. I don't know why. I don't really know why. There's really no rhyme or reason as to why I have not picked up any of Colleen Hoover's works yet, but I will be getting a copy of It Ends With Us soon, so that way I can read both of these books and determine for myself if I am a Colleen Hoover stan, and if I'm going to be one of those people that anticipates any of her releases. I know that Verity is one of her most popular books, and a lot of people always recommend that, so I probably will read that at some point, but I just wanted to start off with this and It Ends With Us. And for those of you who don't know, I'm pretty sure you do, again, similar to the Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo and Malibu Rising, but I'm pretty sure that It Ends With Us follows like a couple who is in this like not so great relationship. I think it's like a toxic relationship, and then another character gets thrown into the mix somehow, and like the story kind of explodes. I think that's like the general premise of it, or that's at least what I gathered when I was watching booktube videos and reading Bookstagram posts. That's kind of the vibe I got from that story. But either way, I think that these are going to be interesting reads, and I can't wait to see how Colleen Hoover tackles real life issues, and how love can get messy and scary and heartbreaking, but also exhilarating all at once. The next book I have here is actually a nonfiction read, and it is a memoir, and it is Talking As Fast As I Can by Lauren Graham. So I absolutely love Lauren Graham. For those of you who do not know, Lauren Graham is an actress, and she did play Lorelai Gilmore in the hit show Gilmore Girls, if you ever heard of it. And I was obsessed with Lorelai, and I still watch Gilmore Girls every fall. I watch Gilmore Girls. I'm actually in the process of rewatching it right now, and once I found out she came up with her own memoir where she talks about her, you know, personal life and what it means to be an actress, but also what her time was like on Gilmore Girls, I knew I had to pick this up. I think that she is like a hilarious actress, so I cannot wait to dive into this. I've heard nothing but great things about this book as well, and it is fairly short, so you gotta love when memoirs aren't super long. And I think she came out with a few other books too, so I'm definitely gonna have to check those out and pick them them up sometime in the future. So the last 3 books I have here are thrillers, surprise, surprise, and the first one is Watching You by Lisa Jewell. So I mentioned in one of my other videos that Lisa Jewell is one of my thriller queens. I think she is the thriller queen for a lot of people. The first book that I read by her was Then She Was Gone, which you probably know is one of her like most notable works. It's honestly a great book. I loved Then She Was Gone, and that book honestly opened up my heart to psychological thrillers. I thought that book was phenomenal. But this one right here, I honestly don't know anything about. I really don't know. I picked this up off of a whim on Amazon, and I think it is like a sleepy suburbia type of murder mystery situation. Right here it says, someone knows what you did. Melville Heights is one of the nicest neighborhoods in Bristol, England. It's not usually the sort of place where people are murdered in their own kitchens, but it is the sort of place where everyone has a secret and prying eyes lurk behind every curtain. So, who has been murdered? And who would have wanted one of their neighbors dead? So yes, a classic whodunit mystery, a classic sleepy suburbia. Everybody's keeping their secrets, everybody knows everybody, that type of vibe, and I'm here for that. I love these type of stories. I think this is what classified as like a domestic thriller. I think that's what it would be called. I know a lot of people don't enjoy those, and they don't really care for the sleepy suburbia like murder mystery situation. Some people find it very predictable and they find it kind of boring, but like I like these. I feel like these are just quick, easy thrillers to get through. I don't know how this ranks on Goodreads or how this ranks in Lisa Jewell's like catalog. I don't really see too many people talking about this book in particular, so I don't know how beloved this is, but either way, I'm going to pick this up and I need to read it because I've had this on my bookshelf for a minute now and I have not read any Lisa Jewell in a while, so I need to get on this. Next book that I would like to read is Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. I have been challenging myself to read one classic a month for this year, and this was supposed to be one of the very first books that I read or started out with, and honestly I flop every single time. Something about this book just intimidates me. I think it's probably because of how the language is written, like so the old English language, like that just goes right over my head, and I'm honestly scared that it's going to be the case for this book. But I do want to give this a try just because I know this is like literally one of the most, if not the most beloved classic in history, honestly. I just feel like everyone raves and talks about this book and talks very highly about it, as well as the movie adaptations. So I really want to give this a try and also start to understand the references that have come from this book. I want to see how this also inspired a lot of the modern literature pieces that we read and love today. So yeah, honestly, I don't really know exactly what the plot is of this story. I just know right here that it says the quintessential British comedy of manners, pairing the bright, pretty, but prejudiced Elizabeth Bennet and the wealthy, handsome, but prideful Mr. Darcy. But y'all know, like I said, with these classics, it can be kind of, you know, intimidating. That's all. I keep saying the same thing, but it's the truth. Like, it can be very intimidating. But either way, I do plan on reading this at some point in my life, but I'm hoping it's before the end of the year. So the second to last book that I have here is A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson, and this is a trilogy, and I think the last book that just came out, so the third one, is the final book in the series. So this does follow a young girl named Pip who is trying to investigate this murder that happened in her town to the student that went to her high school, I think like years before Pip attended. So she's trying to figure out exactly like what really happened and who really murdered her, because I think the person who was convicted of her murder was her boyfriend, and I don't think Pip believes that it was her boyfriend. So she starts digging around and she's trying to figure out exactly what happened all those years ago, and I think bad things start to happen as Pip starts digging and digging more into the truth. So I've heard nothing but great things about this one too. I feel like all of these books that I have here, everyone has praised them for the most part, and this series in particular, I just feel like it has gotten so much hype. I heard the last book wasn't that great, but either way, I'm still going to give this book a try, and if I end up really liking it, of course I will continue on with the series. I don't really read that many series anyway, so it would be fun to just have something, to have another series on my TBR. The only one that I have is a romance one, which is the Primas of Power series, so a lot like Adios and You Have Me at Hola. So it would be cool to have a thriller series to, you know, read through. But either way, I really think that this is going to be an interesting story, and you know, YA, there are some really good YA thrillers and horror books that are out right now, and I feel like people are sleeping on them, honestly. Not this book in particular or this series, but some YA authors put out some really good YA thrillers, so I want to support whenever and wherever I can, and I think that this is going to be a great one to start with. The last book that I have here is The Last Flight by Julie Clark. So I actually saw this book being talked about in one of As Told by Kenya's videos. She did a reading vlog where she talked about this book, and it honestly sounded very interesting. On the back here it says, 2 women, 2 flights, one last chance to disappear. So I don't want to go into the full synopsis because you know how thrillers can get. I don't want to spoil anything for myself or for you, but I do know that this is like a convoluted type of thriller, so there's a lot going on and you kind of have to pay attention to it, because again, like I mentioned, there's 2 women in this story and something's going on, and one of them is really trying to disappear. So I cannot wait to jump into this book. I think that this is going to be the next thriller that I read, to be honest, just because I picked this up recently from Target when they were having their buy one get one, I think 50% off or like free sale or whatever. So this is still like very new to me, and I don't want the momentum to die down, so I'm definitely going to give this a read. All right, y'all, and those are all of the books that I hope to get to before the end of the year is over. I'm really excited about the pile that I have here because I genuinely do want to read all of these books. Now, I am a mood reader through and through, so there are going to be some Christmas books that I plan on reading that I haven't shown here because that's going to be its own video, but also I'm just probably going to throw other books into the mix because that's just the type of reader I am. But for the most part, I do want to read all of these books before the end of the year. I know for a fact I want to read The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, as well as where is that other book, The Love Hypothesis, just because both of those books are getting a lot of hype and a lot of praise, and I want to see if they live up to the hype, personally, for me. So yeah, definitely let me know in the comments what books you plan on reading before the end of the year, and I will see you in my next video.